My friend's mom smiled at me and said, "You're too cute to say no to." I should have laughed it off, but I didn't. The story opens with our narrator, a 22-year-old young man, stepping into his friend's home on a lazy Saturday afternoon. He's casual, carrying the easy confidence of youth, but internally he's a little anxious. There's a mix of excitement and guilt in seeing his friend's mom. This is no ordinary woman. From the moment he crosses the threshold, her presence fills the room with warmth and a kind of understated authority that commands attention without demanding it. She greets him with a smile that feels familiar, yet carries a teasing undertone. The narrator immediately notices how graceful she is, her movements deliberate but effortless, the sway of her posture that comes from confidence shaped over years of life experience. There's a quiet elegance in her clothes, simple but flattering, hinting at self-awareness without ostentation. She exudes warmth, but there's a spark in her eyes, a playful mischief that makes the narrator second-guess his own composure. The first line that sets the tone comes naturally, almost offhand, "You're too cute to say no to." She smirks as she says it, light and teasing, and yet the words seem to hang in the air longer than expected. The narrator can't help but feel a strange flutter, a mix of admiration, surprise, and hesitation. His mind races. Is this just playful banter, or is there something more beneath her words? The tension is subtle, but undeniable, and the audience immediately senses that something is about to shift. From here, the scene is driven as much by internal observation as external action. The narrator notices the small, sensory details that make the moment intimate, the soft warmth of her hand brushing his briefly as she hands him a drink, the faint perfume she wears, light, floral, comforting, and the richness of her laugh, which carries easily across the room, settling into his chest. He observes the slight way she tilts her head when she's curious, or the way her eyes light up when she's amused, and these little gestures leave him unexpectedly self-conscious. The tension grows not through explicit interaction but through proximity and subtle cues. She moves around the room, seemingly unconcerned with him noticing, yet he can't help but notice everything: the way her hair falls over one shoulder, the curve of her smile, the rhythm of her movements. Every detail is magnified because of the internal narrative. This is a young man discovering a depth of attraction he hadn't anticipated. For the audience, this is a chance to feel his heartbeat, his nervous glances, and his quiet awe. This part also establishes the narrator's internal conflict. He's aware of social boundaries. She's his friend's mother, significantly older, someone who exists in a category that he's never navigated before. He feels guilt for noticing her in ways he knows he shouldn't, but it's mixed with a magnetic pull, a curiosity that is difficult to ignore. This inner struggle is crucial. It sets the stage for the slow-burn emotional development that will define the story. By the end of the first part, we want viewers to be deeply invested in the tension. The audience should feel the unspoken chemistry, the brief accidental touches, the shared smiles, and the teasing remark that lingers in memory. These early moments create a foundation for the coming chapters, emphasizing that this story isn't about explicit romance but about the delicate, human experience of noticing someone profoundly, feeling drawn to them, and recognizing the societal and emotional obstacles in the way. Visually, the scene should feel warm, inviting, and intimate. Lighting is soft, perhaps the golden hue of late afternoon sun spilling into the living room. Camera focus is close enough to capture subtle glances and fleeting gestures, letting the audience live in the narrator's perspective. Sound design should highlight the small details, the clink of a glass, the soft brush of hands, the rustle of fabric, all creating an immersive, sensory-rich environment that enhances the emotional stakes. The takeaway from part 1 is clear: intrigue is established, boundaries are hinted at, and the slow-burn emotional tension begins. The audience is left thinking about the meaning behind her words, the electricity in small touches, and the way two people can communicate volumes without saying much at all. The line "you're too cute to say no to" becomes a motif, not just playful teasing, but a signal that something significant is beginning, an emotional journey that will unfold carefully, one moment at a time. By the time the narrator has been in the house for a little while, the initial spark of curiosity has evolved into a quiet awareness. He finds himself noticing more than just her elegance and confident charm. He begins to notice her humanity, the small habits and gestures that make her feel real, warm, and unexpectedly familiar. This part of the story focuses on subtle connection, those seemingly ordinary moments that quietly deepen the emotional tension, creating intimacy without crossing boundaries. The scene often unfolds in domestic spaces, a kitchen, living room, or porch, where the narrator and the older woman share time together without the pressure of overt romantic interaction. Perhaps he's helping her with a simple task, setting the table, organizing groceries, or rinsing dishes together after a casual lunch. The physical closeness is natural and necessary to the task, but the narrator becomes acutely aware of every fleeting brush of skin, every accidental touch. These moments are not sexual, they are charged because of their restraint. A fingertip grazing his hand as she passes him a plate, the warmth radiating from her palm, the subtle brush of her hair as she leans forward to reach something. These small, tactile experiences heighten the sense of intimacy and make the audience feel the slow-burn attraction viscerally. During these shared tasks, conversation flows easily, almost effortlessly. She teases him gently about something he's done or said, and he finds himself laughing, genuine laughter, but tinged with embarrassment because she has the uncanny ability to make him feel simultaneously noticed and self-conscious. Their exchanges are playful, warm, and filled with layered meanings that only someone paying attention could notice. For example, a compliment disguised as a joke, a comment on his smile, his attentiveness, or the way he carries himself, resonates deeper than it should. This creates a duality. The narrator enjoys the banter, but he also feels the magnetic pull of attraction he hasn't yet fully acknowledged. One of the most important elements of this part is showing her vulnerability. She might sigh quietly after finishing a chore, or glance out the window with a hint of fatigue in her eyes. Perhaps she shares a small personal anecdote, something about her childhood, her career, or a minor regret she's never spoken about. These moments of emotional honesty give the narrator a glimpse of her depth beyond the poised exterior. He senses that she is more than the teasing, confident persona that first greeted him. She has lived, loved, and faced disappointment, and this combination of strength and vulnerability makes her all the more magnetic. For the audience, this duality is key. It builds empathy for both characters and makes the slow-burn tension feel grounded and realistic. Eye contact becomes another tool for intimacy. While working side by side, their glances occasionally linger longer than necessary. A small smile, a subtle tilt of the head, a quick lift of an eyebrow, all of these tiny gestures communicate volumes without words. The narrator may find himself fixating on the warmth in her eyes, or how her smile seems to hold him in quiet attention. The audience should feel this as an emotional undercurrent. There is connection, curiosity, and a growing mutual awareness, but it is tempered by restraint. The internal narration here is crucial for establishing the slow-burn tension. The narrator thinks about her more than he should, about how natural she is, how comforting her presence feels, and how confusingly magnetic. He worries about boundaries, about his friendship with her son, about the social impossibility of being attracted to her, and yet these thoughts do not prevent him from being drawn in. This internal struggle makes him relatable and grounds the story in emotional realism, which is ideal for a YouTube audience invested in character-driven romance. Visually, this part of the story should feel warm, calm, and intimate. Lighting is soft, perhaps the afternoon sun spilling through a window, highlighting the gentle movements of their interaction. Small camera details, the subtle brush of fingers, the tilt of her head, her warm smile, allow viewers to feel as if they are observing real, tender moments. Sound design emphasizes ambient, domestic sounds, the clink of dishes, the hum of a refrigerator, or the faint rustle of clothing. These details immerse the audience in the shared moment, reinforcing the slow, deliberate pacing of their connection. By the end of Part 2, the audience should feel that something meaningful is developing. The relationship is no longer defined only by intrigue or playful teasing. It has taken its first steps toward emotional depth. The narrator is aware that he is drawn to her beyond casual admiration, and she, in turn, seems quietly attuned to his reactions. Yet, the tension remains subtle, restrained, and respectful, a delicate balance between connection and hesitation that lays the foundation for the emotional progression in the coming parts. As the initial spark of curiosity and playful connection settles into something more palpable, Part 3 dives deeply into the internal conflicts of both characters. The narrator, now fully aware of his attraction to his friend's mom, begins to grapple with the weight of social boundaries, age difference, and his own feelings of guilt. Meanwhile, she, too, navigates her inner world, balancing maternal instincts, personal loneliness, and an undeniable curiosity that he stirs in her. This part is all about hesitation, self-reflection, and the subtle moments that make the audience feel the emotional tension without ever needing overt romance. The scene often begins in a quieter setting, a living room with soft music playing, or a porch where afternoon light filters through the trees. The narrator may be helping her with something mundane, like organizing books or cleaning up after a small gathering. The physical closeness is understated but meaningful. Their hands brush as they reach for the same object, their knees occasionally touch while sitting side by side, and the warmth of shared space becomes more noticeable. These small touches, entirely innocent on the surface, carry layers of unspoken meaning, and the narrator notices them with a heightened sensitivity. For viewers, these details are crucial. They create the slow, almost imperceptible tension that defines a slow-burn romance. At the same time, conversations reveal emotional depth. The narrator might ask casual questions about her life, only to receive answers tinged with subtle vulnerability. Perhaps she talks about a past regret, a professional challenge, or a fleeting moment of loneliness. She speaks with honesty, but there's a lightness in her tone that masks the deeper emotions. The narrator notices this duality, the confident exterior she presents to the world contrasted with the quiet softness she rarely shows anyone. This contrast draws him in further, making him more attentive to her words, gestures, and silences. The audience should feel this layering. They should sense that every glance, sigh, and smile carries more than it appears. The internal narrative of the narrator becomes central in this part. He is conscious of the magnetic pull he feels toward her but is equally aware of the potential consequences. Thoughts swirl through his mind. I shouldn't be thinking this. She's my friend's mom, but I can't help it. This conflict between desire and morality is fertile ground for emotional engagement. Viewers relate to his honesty, empathy, and hesitance, he is not simply attracted to her physically, but emotionally captivated by her warmth, humor, and subtle kindness. Meanwhile, she exhibits her own internal struggle. She notices the little things, the way he listens intently, the gentle expressions that betray his own nervousness, the way he instinctively offers to help her. She may even catch herself watching him more than socially acceptable, questioning whether her curiosity is harmless or the beginning of something more complex. These subtle reflections give her character depth and prevent the story from being one-sided. The audience sees that the attraction is mutual, nuanced, and grounded in human connection rather than mere physicality. Sensory and body language details remain key in this part. A hand briefly resting on his shoulder during conversation, the warmth of her presence as she leans close to point something out, or the soft brush of her hair when she adjusts her posture. These gestures are small, fleeting, and profoundly intimate. Even a simple shared smile across the room or a quiet laugh at a minor joke becomes emotionally charged because of the slow build and the awareness that both characters have of their own feelings. Visually and atmospherically, Part 3 emphasizes intimacy through subtle cues. Lighting is gentle and natural, perhaps the golden hue of late afternoon sun or the soft glow of indoor lamps. Camera angles capture glances, slight movements, and touches that would otherwise go unnoticed. Sound design emphasizes the understated, the clink of cups, the soft rustle of fabric, the hum of distant traffic outside. These details immerse the audience in a tactile, human world where small moments carry emotional weight. The overarching goal of this keynote is to deepen the slow-burn tension while showcasing internal conflict and restraint. By the end of Part 3, the audience should feel that the character's attraction has evolved beyond initial curiosity into genuine emotional intrigue. They are aware of each other's vulnerabilities and strengths, which creates empathy and investment in their journey. Yet, the story maintains its restraint. No overt romantic or physical steps are taken, leaving the tension simmering just below the surface, ready to unfold in later parts. The takeaway from this part is that attraction is as much about emotional connection, empathy, and subtle gestures as it is about physical presence. By showing hesitation, reflection, and vulnerability, the story grounds the romance in realism, allowing viewers to feel the internal struggle and slow-growing intimacy in a relatable, human way. By Part 4, the initial intrigue and deepening emotional awareness have evolved into a subtle, playful tension that heightens the slow-burn romance. This stage is all about teasing, flirtation, and the small, seemingly insignificant interactions that carry weight because of the emotional intimacy already established. Both characters are now aware of their attraction, yet neither fully acts on it, creating a delicious push-and-pull dynamic that the audience can feel in every glance, laugh, and touch. The scene often begins in a relaxed, casual environment. Perhaps they are sitting together on the couch, watching a movie, or preparing snacks in the kitchen. These ordinary domestic settings allow the flirtation to feel natural and believable, rather than forced or overt. The narrator notices how she uses playful gestures to test boundaries, a teasing remark about how easily he blushes, a joking comment about his lack of kitchen skills, or a smirk that lingers just a moment too long. These small provocations are loaded with emotional meaning because of their shared history over the past few days. Physical proximity continues to be a subtle vehicle for intimacy. A hand brushing his arm as she hands him a cup of tea, a casual touch on his shoulder while laughing, or leaning slightly closer than necessary to whisper a joke, each action conveys warmth, comfort, and a quiet acknowledgement of their growing connection. These touches are safe for YouTube, yet they are charged with tension because of the slow buildup and the audience's awareness of the unspoken attraction. The narrator becomes hyper-aware of these cues. He notices the way her eyes linger a fraction longer than normal, the playful tilt of her head, the soft curve of her smile when she sees him reacting. His own reactions, nervous laughter, quick glances away, a slight flush, mirror the push-and-pull energy of the interaction. Internally, he wrestles with exhilaration and guilt. He's drawn to her more than he should be, yet every teasing remark and gentle touch makes it increasingly difficult to maintain emotional distance. For viewers, these internal conflicts create empathy and investment, making the slow burn tension both believable and compelling. The emotional core of this part lies in the subtle blend of desire, curiosity, and restraint. She is fully aware of the effect she has on him, but she never oversteps boundaries. Her flirtation is gentle, teasing, and layered with emotional nuance. There is affection and warmth, not manipulation. In her brief smiles and playful comments, the audience senses that she is equally intrigued and perhaps even a little conflicted. The complexity of her emotions makes the relationship feel real and human, rather than a simplistic older woman/younger man trope. Conversations in this part often contain double meanings or lightly charged comments that only the two of them truly understand. Perhaps she remarks on his attentiveness with a playful eyebrow raise, or comments on his too serious nature while giving him a soft nudge. These lines are casual on the surface but carry emotional weight, letting the audience feel the tension simmering beneath ordinary exchanges. The narrator, caught between awareness and restraint, interprets each word and gesture, making the small moments feel monumental. Sensory details remain crucial for building intimacy. The warmth of her hand grazing his arm, the subtle scent of her perfume lingering in the air, the soft laugh that vibrates near his ear, all of these create a tactile, immersive experience. Even small visual cues, like the way her hair falls over her shoulder, the way she leans slightly closer when speaking, or the flicker of a smirk, communicate meaning without needing words. The slow burn tension is reinforced through these micro moments, giving the audience a tangible sense of connection. Visually and atmospherically, Part 4 should feel playful, cozy, and intimate. Lighting is soft, casting gentle shadows that enhance the warmth of the setting. Camera focus emphasizes subtle gestures and expressions, the way she glances at him when she thinks he's not noticing, the brief brush of hands, the shared smiles that speak volumes. Sound design emphasizes small, human sounds, the clink of cups, the rustle of fabric, her laughter. These details immerse the audience in the scene, letting them feel the emotional charge without requiring explicit dialogue or action. By the end of Part 4, the audience should feel that the emotional tension is escalating. The playful flirtation establishes that attraction is mutual, and the small, meaningful gestures make the connection tangible. Yet, both characters remain consciously restrained, leaving the slow burn tension simmering beautifully. This stage sets the stage for deeper vulnerability in the next part, where unspoken feelings begin to confront reality, and the emotional stakes become more pronounced. By Part 5, the slow burn tension between the narrator and his friend's mom reaches a stage where playful teasing and subtle touches are no longer enough. The emotional connection has deepened, and both characters find themselves confronting feelings they can no longer ignore. This part is about vulnerability, honesty, and the quiet, weighty moments that transform attraction into genuine emotional intimacy. The scene often begins in a quiet, private space, perhaps the living room late in the evening, or a balcony overlooking a quiet street. The casual backdrop of earlier interactions has shifted, there's a stillness that invites introspection. The narrator may notice the way her posture relaxes when she thinks no one is observing, or how her gaze drifts in thought, revealing a contemplative side he hasn't seen before. These moments make the audience sense that something significant is about to happen, creating anticipation without the need for overt drama. A shared silence may stretch comfortably at first, before the narrator breaks it with an honest reflection of his own feelings. Perhaps he admits, hesitantly, that he enjoys spending time with her more than he should, or that he's been thinking about her often, more than he's comfortable admitting. His voice may waver slightly, betraying nervousness, and he glances at her, searching for a reaction. These admissions are loaded with vulnerability. He's revealing not just attraction, but an emotional openness that makes him feel exposed. The audience experiences this confession alongside him, feeling the risk and courage in simply speaking the truth. Her response is equally nuanced and measured. She doesn't dismiss him, nor does she immediately reciprocate in a physical way. Instead, she acknowledges her own conflicting feelings, speaking gently about the tension between desire and propriety. Perhaps she mentions the age gap, the friendship boundaries, or the potential consequences of acting on their feelings. Yet, there is also warmth in her tone, an acknowledgement that she, too, feels the pull of connection. For viewers, this response strikes the perfect balance. It reinforces the slow-burn tension while remaining grounded and believable. Physicality in this part is subtle but meaningful. A brief handhold, the palms touching lightly as they pass a cup of tea, or a gentle brush of a shoulder during conversation conveys emotional intimacy without crossing into overt romance. These small touches reinforce their growing trust and connection. They are safe for a broad audience, yet emotionally charged because of the context built over previous parts. Even a shared smile or a soft glance across the room communicates volumes, letting viewers feel the unspoken language between them. The narrator's internal reflections amplify the emotional weight. He thinks about the vulnerability required to admit his feelings, about how her reactions affect him, and about the blurred line between longing and propriety. He notices every detail, her soft sigh, the subtle shift in her posture, the way her eyes meet his without judgment. These micro-observations allow the audience to experience the connection as he experiences it, deeply, subtly, and with an acute sense of sensitivity. Sensory details remain central. The warmth of her hand against his, the faint fragrance of her perfume, the comfort of her presence as she speaks in soft tones, all contribute to a visceral experience for viewers. These elements transform ordinary interactions into emotionally rich moments, giving the audience a sense of intimacy without needing explicit physical contact. The slow, deliberate pacing emphasizes how much weight can be carried by small gestures and honest conversation. Visually, the setting should feel intimate and safe. Soft, warm lighting, perhaps from a single lamp or the gentle glow of streetlights outside, casts a golden hue, highlighting expressions and small movements. Camera angles linger on eyes, hands, and fleeting smiles, emphasizing the emotional subtext rather than physical action. Ambient sound, like the quiet hum of a fan or distant city noises, reinforces the sense of a private world shared only by the two characters. By the end of Part 5, the emotional stakes have shifted dramatically. Both characters have acknowledged their feelings, and the playful flirtation of earlier parts has matured into a tender, vulnerable connection. The audience should feel the weight of these admissions, the risk, the longing, and the depth of trust being established. The tension remains unresolved in a romantic sense, leaving room for the next part to explore the peak of intimacy and emotional connection. The takeaway is clear: emotional vulnerability is the heart of slow-burn romance. By allowing characters to express their inner struggles and desires, the story creates a compelling, human connection that feels authentic, relatable, and deeply moving. It sets the stage for Part 6, where the emotional intensity will reach its peak, and the subtle romance that has been building finally finds its most poignant expression. By Part 6, the slow-burn tension that has been simmering for days, or weeks, reaches its emotional peak. The playful flirtation and quiet vulnerability of previous parts evolve into a deeply resonant moment of intimacy. This part is not about overt romance but about the emotional high point, the unspoken acknowledgement of desire, the weight of connection, and the shared understanding that something profound is unfolding between them. The stakes are higher now because both characters are fully aware of their feelings and the societal boundaries surrounding them. The scene often takes place in a setting that naturally isolates them: a quiet living room after everyone else has left, a balcony overlooking a calm street at dusk, or a late-night kitchen where soft lamplight highlights the small details of the room. The setting reinforces the private, intimate nature of the moment. Every element, the lighting, the ambient sound, the physical space, contributes to the sense of closeness, making the audience feel like they are quietly witnessing a deeply personal connection. Physical proximity becomes more meaningful in this part. They sit closer than usual, perhaps brushing knees or shoulders, and both are acutely aware of the sensations this closeness evokes. A hand may hover near his as they reach for the same object, then rest lightly on his wrist, allowing the warmth and contact to linger. She may lean slightly toward him as she speaks, her voice softer, more intentional, as if sharing something that exists only for him. These small gestures, entirely YouTube-safe, carry the weight of emotional intimacy, making the slow burn feel tangible and electrifying without needing explicit romantic action. The conversation, or sometimes the comfortable silence, is filled with unspoken emotion. They exchange looks that convey acknowledgement, the recognition of mutual desire, the hesitation to act on it, and the understanding of the boundaries they are navigating. Perhaps he comments on how much he admires her presence, and she responds with a soft, meaningful smile, her eyes reflecting warmth and curiosity. The audience should feel the tension in every glance, the electricity in every touch, and the emotional resonance of every word left unsaid. Internally, the narrator experiences a whirlwind of sensations and reflections. He feels the magnetic pull toward her, the warmth of her hand, the subtle scent of her perfume, and the softness of her voice as it brushes against him. Yet he also feels hesitation and restraint, acutely aware of the social and moral complexities of their attraction. These internal struggles deepen the audience's empathy, as viewers experience both the allure and the restraint that define a slow-burn romance. The older woman's perspective is equally nuanced. She is aware of the emotional intensity between them and allows herself to respond with subtle gestures rather than overt advances. Her hand may rest briefly near his, her eyes linger just long enough, or she may shift slightly closer when speaking, creating a gentle tension that speaks volumes. The audience sees that she is balancing desire with propriety, curiosity with caution, and warmth with restraint. This duality makes her character rich and multidimensional, enhancing the realism and relatability of the story. Sensory details amplify the intimacy of the scene. The warmth radiating from her hand, the faint, comforting scent of her perfume, the softness of her laugh as she brushes a stray hair from her face, these elements heighten the emotional experience. Even the ambient sounds, like the quiet hum of distant traffic or the faint rustle of clothing, add texture to the scene, making every gesture and glance feel charged with meaning. These details allow the audience to feel the moment rather than just observe it. Visually, this part should be shot with soft, warm lighting that highlights expressions and gestures. Camera focus lingers on fleeting touches, eyes, smiles, and subtle body language. Shadows and light play across their faces, enhancing the emotional subtext. The slow pacing, combined with tight framing, allows viewers to feel every heartbeat, every brush of skin, and every fleeting expression. This creates a cinematic and immersive experience, aligning perfectly with the slow burn, emotionally driven storytelling style. By the end of Part 6, the audience should feel the emotional climax of the slow burn, the peak of attraction, vulnerability, and unspoken desire. Both characters recognize the depth of their feelings and the significance of their connection, even if they are not acting on it in a romantic sense. This climax sets the stage for Part 7, where the story resolves, whether with commitment, uncertainty, or emotional closure, leaving viewers emotionally satisfied and deeply invested in the character's journey. The takeaway is that the emotional peak of a slow-burn romance doesn't require explicit romance or drama. It thrives on restraint, subtle gestures, and the profound weight of shared vulnerability. This moment becomes the emotional heart of the story, leaving a lasting impression that carries into the resolution. By Part 7, the slow-burn romance has reached its emotional climax, and it's time to provide the audience with a resolution that feels earned, authentic, and emotionally resonant. This part is about reflection, acknowledgement, and the final delicate balance between desire, propriety, and emotional fulfillment. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic confessions, rather, it's about the quiet, human moments that leave a lasting impression and provide closure for both characters, and for viewers invested in their journey. The setting is typically intimate and private, a softly lit living room, a balcony with the fading evening sky, or a small, cozy kitchen. The space mirrors the emotional intimacy that has been carefully built throughout the story. The audience should feel a sense of calm and warmth, signaling that the characters are stepping into a new understanding of each other. There is no rush, time seems to slow, allowing the subtle, tender moments of connection to shine. The scene often begins with a quiet conversation or even a shared silence, where both characters reflect on the journey they've shared. The narrator may express gratitude for her openness and the moments of genuine connection they've experienced. Perhaps he admits how much he has admired her strength, warmth, and humor, acknowledging the emotional impact she has had on him. These reflections are tender and respectful, emphasizing the depth of their bond rather than mere attraction. She responds with equal sincerity. Her words might acknowledge the complexity of their connection, the age difference, the friendship boundaries, the societal expectations, while also admitting that their time together has left a meaningful imprint on her life. The audience sees that she values him not just for his youth or charm, but for his emotional sensitivity, his attentiveness, and the way he has honored her vulnerability. This mutual recognition cements their emotional intimacy and grounds the story in realism. Physical gestures in this part remain subtle, intimate, and YouTube-safe. A lingering hand squeeze, a soft cheek-to-cheek hug, or a gentle touch on the shoulder conveys affection and connection without crossing boundaries. Even shared laughter over a small memory or a meaningful glance across the room becomes charged with emotion. These small, tactile moments reinforce the sense that their bond is profound and lasting, leaving viewers with a tangible feeling of warmth and closure. Internal reflections are essential in this stage. The narrator may think about the way her smile lingers in his memory, the quiet moments of touch that seemed inconsequential at the time but now feel significant, and the profound sense of connection he feels. He understands that their bond has changed him, giving him a deeper appreciation for emotional intimacy and the subtle power of human connection. The audience experiences these reflections alongside him, deepening empathy and emotional engagement. Sensory details continue to heighten the realism and immersion. The warmth of her hand in his, the faint, comforting scent of her perfume, the softness of her voice as she speaks, and the gentle rustle of fabric as she shifts closer, all contribute to a rich, intimate atmosphere. Even ambient sounds, like distant city noises or the quiet ticking of a clock, create a sense of space and time, making the moment feel lived in and emotionally grounded. These details allow viewers to experience the resolution as more than just narrative closure. They feel the moment physically and emotionally. The resolution can take several forms, depending on the story's emotional arc and intended impact. Together and secure, they acknowledge their feelings and decide to pursue a discreet relationship, committed to one another despite the challenges. The story ends with a sense of hope, mutual respect, and emotional security. Together but uncertain, they admit their feelings but leave the future open, recognizing the difficulty of societal norms or practical limitations. The audience experiences bittersweet tension, balanced by genuine connection. Emotional resolution without romance. They part as friends or mentors, acknowledging the bond they've shared without pursuing a romantic relationship. This ending emphasizes emotional growth and lasting impact. Separation with lasting impact. Circumstances prevent them from being together, yet the connection profoundly changes them, leaving a lingering sense of bittersweet reflection and personal growth. Regardless of the chosen ending, the focus is on emotional truth and subtle closure. The audience should feel that the journey was meaningful, that every glance, touch, and shared laugh contributed to a lasting bond, and that the characters' choices are authentic to their personalities and experiences. Visually, Part 7 should maintain the warm, intimate aesthetic established throughout the story. Soft lighting, gentle shadows, and lingering close-ups on faces, hands, and eyes capture the nuanced emotions. Camera movement is minimal, emphasizing stillness, reflection, and presence. The pacing is deliberate, allowing each moment of emotional resonance to land fully with the audience. By the conclusion of Part 7, viewers are left with a sense of satisfaction. The slow burn arc has reached a natural and emotionally rich resolution, honoring the characters' internal growth, mutual understanding, and deep connection. The story lingers in memory, not because of dramatic gestures, but because of its authenticity, warmth, and the subtle power of human closeness. The takeaway: a slow burn romance is most impactful when it honors emotional truth, restraint, and connection. Part 7 transforms the tension, vulnerability, and intimacy of earlier chapters into a conclusion that is deeply satisfying, emotionally resonant, and unforgettable for the audience.